Hey everybody, this is Justin with Masonic Improvement. Thank you for joining me. I'm not sure what the name of this video is going to be because I don't really know what this falls under. I'm going to talk about conducting yourselves appropriately, I guess you could say. This is something I had kind of on my agenda to talk about for a while, and I saw something today, and it was a picture of a Reddit post that I don't even know who it was that posted it or anything anymore, but it's about a brother who speeds on a regular basis, and he had a Masonic emblem on the back of his car, and he got pulled over. And when the cop came up, he asked for the license and registration, and he also asked for the guy's dues card. Now, the guy that got pulled over, he thought he was going to get out of it because, he assumed the cop must have been a Mason. But the cop made the comment, you're representing our fraternity with that square and compass on the back of your car. And everything you do in the public eye may be the only impression or the first impression someone gets of the fraternity. So the way you act, whether it be speeding or anything like that, is going to affect people's perspective of who we are. And here's the thing. Let's just talk about in person real quick. I'm going to move on from that, but let's talk about in person. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a square and compass. It doesn't matter if you have a ring. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a shirt, or anything representing your lodge. If you have nothing on that identifies you as a member of the fraternity, you still need to act as though you have something like that on. Because even if you are not an active Mason, you took your Master Mason's degree, 10 years ago, and you never showed up for lodge again. Here's the thing. If you make a butt out of yourself on a regular basis, if you constantly go around using profanity that you're not supposed to, doing things that are sketchy, lying to people, cheating, things like that, eventually they're going to find out you're a Mason. And that may be the first or only exposure they've ever had to the fraternity. And here's the thing, if you're the only Mason that they've ever known of and you act that way, that leads them to assume that those are the kind of people we allow in the fraternity. It also leads them to assume that that's the majority of the kind of people we allow in the fraternity. I've had comments on some of my YouTube videos, where these guys are like, I hate the Masons. My stepdad or my dad was a Freemason, or my granddad was a Freemason. He was just a terrible person. And unfortunately, that happens. Our conduct as men reflects the fraternity. And so that's just something to keep in mind. But also, I want to talk about the internet, and particularly about Facebook. There are brothers that I know, and I'm not calling anybody out because I've seen this many times. But they may have a square and compass on their profile picture. They may talk about all the lodge stuff they're doing, but at the same time, they're sharing images that are kind of offensive, things like that. They are leaving comments or just doing status updates of things that they like I was saying earlier, kind of sketchy. They're using language that really doesn't represent us as a fraternity very well. And I know that they don't think it's a big deal, or they wouldn't be doing it. And I know that that's the language they use on an everyday basis, or they wouldn't be doing it. But particularly on a world stage like the internet, the things you do reflect you and everything you're associated with. So if you're sharing things like half-naked women on Facebook and things like that, and using profanity and all these other things, and then one day you talk about how you're going to a lodge meeting, well, everybody that's been following you is going to say, well, those are the kind of people that they allow in the fraternity. And yes, that obviously is the kind of people we allow in. Some people could say, depending on how bad it is, it might be a Westgate situation. But really what it falls back to, I think for the majority of us, is learning to learning to subdue our passions, or be a quiet and peaceful citizen. Those are things we need to maybe fall back on a little bit more, and just kind of reflect on those meanings before we post anything. Because I'll just tell you, if I'm going to investigate somebody that wants to join the fraternity, one of the first places I'm going to look is Facebook, because for some reason people just have no filters when they're on Facebook. And I could tell more about a person by looking at their Facebook page than I can actually just talking to the person, face to face. And if you wouldn't want someone that's investigating you to see these things, if you maybe have a potential boss that would want you to see these things, then you shouldn't post things like that anyway. If you think that would have affected your chances of getting into the fraternity, or if you're posting things that you think would have maybe affected your chances of getting a job at some point, then why would you post it after the fact? So just consider that before you hit that share button or that post button or even that like button. Truth be told, you need to really wonder, how would this look if someone was to know that I did that and I'm a member of the Masons? Because even if you are not, even if you're not active, even if you don't wear that SNC every day, someone eventually is going to find out that you're a Mason, and that's going to affect, depending on your actions, that's going to affect their view of the fraternity. And I know you may not feel like it's a big deal, but little things add up. And I know there's some of you that are really concerned about the future of the fraternity as far as membership goes and things like that. I won't get into that, but if you're concerned about things like that, if you feel like there is a bleak future for the fraternity, maybe conduct yourself in a way that represents the fraternity in a positive light. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Just some words to consider. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling anybody how to conduct themselves, but I see things like this on Facebook all the time, and it's just, if you were to tell somebody, but if all their Facebook friends were to suddenly find out they're a Freemason based off the things they've been posting, how would that affect their view of the fraternity? Anyway, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching.